Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Claws Connect. We are going to give it just a minute. Looks like we have some people on here already. I am Shawn White. Brief introduction, because I'm going to introduce myself here in a minute while people join us. Hello, Mike and Charlie and Bill and John. Thank you for being here. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you very much. Hello, Betsy. We're just going to give it a couple minutes or so to get our audience on here. This is going to be a great show tonight. Hello, Kane. Thank you for joining. The Claws Connect. This is episode 4. Tonight we're going to meet an awesome author. And I'm looking forward to this and showing you this book because it's quite amazing. We're slowing down. Let's see if anybody else joins. Hello, Paul. Hi, Paul. I haven't seen you in a while. How's everybody doing tonight? It looks like we have people from everywhere. We have Canada. Charlie's from Michigan. Bill, Marine City, Michigan. Betsy's from Dallas. I think Paul's from Canada. Hello, Diane. Thanks for joining. Okay, we will start. This is episode 4. We're going to meet an author. Bill Barnsley is his name. I've met him on social media in different times, briefly. We talked about him coming on the show, and the more I started talking with him, I knew I needed to get him on here. He is a wealth of information. For anyone that is writing a book or interested in this at all, or reads books like we all do, this guy knows what he's doing. It's very, there we go, technical difficulties. So we're going to start. Let me see. I'm still waiting for my people to get on here. Hi, Ted. Hi, Joseph. Just a note, too, to all of you, if at all you get us some free time, invite people to the Claws Connect, the page on Facebook. It would be very helpful. Today we added quite a few, actually. The more I can grow this, the more people that I can reach out to and get on the show. So it's more knowledge for everyone to gain, which is pretty cool. So tonight, as I said, our guest is Bill Barnsley, Santa storyteller, author, a wonderful man. And with that, we're going to run a little promo for the book, which is pretty exciting if you haven't seen this book. And then we're going to have Bill join us and introduce himself. So there you go, Angela. Would you add it? Angela is our producer. That is wonderful, by the way. Hello, Ted, Joseph, Sue, Bill, Alan in Australia. Thanks for joining us. Now, isn't that the coolest book? And we're going to talk about this book. I'm so excited. So I would like to introduce Bill Barnsley.
Hey there. Hello. How are you?
Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Okay, Bill, tell us all about you. Give us an intro here.
Okay. Until 6 years ago, I was not Santa. It was unexpected. I was running some departments at Walmart, and they decided they needed selfies with Santa back in lawn and garden. And they decided on some guy with a beard. I didn't have a beard. And the suit didn't fit him because he was jolly sized. And so they came out and dragged me back there, and he says, try that on. I said, try what on? And he says, the suit in the box. It was a Santa suit. So it was the finest Santa suit you can get at Walmart for $9.98, including the fur, the glasses, the wig, the belt, um, and and the fake belly. And off I went, and I was Santa, and it was as badly as I was dressed and as unprepared as I was. Um, it was a fairly awesome experience. So I went home and talked to Jude about it and said, something happened at work today. Maybe we could do a thing. And she says, well, why don't you see if you can grow a beard? And I did. So we did. And here we go. And I've been doing this for about 6 years now. And woke up a year ago, January, and I said, I have a book in mind. And wrote this out and talked to her about it. And we decided I should polish it until it was something that's good. And there we are. So now here we are.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Do you have any kind of theater background or musicals or anything like that? Or
I was a music major back in high school and college. I played trumpet, played other brass, but it was marching band and wind ensemble and orchestra, things like that.
Okay.
My youngest was in musical theater, but I wasn't. I don't know what he was doing. I couldn't help him really. I did have many years as a Cub Scout leader, and being a Cub Scout leader, I'm wrangling. In my pack, I had 83 boys, plus the little brothers and sisters, and I had to keep them entertained for an hour once a month, on my own, basically. And then patrol meetings, things like that. I got very used to taking care of little kids and keeping them entertained or occupied or whatever. The 5 to 7 year old crowd of kids, which is where we spend most of our time anyway.
Yeah, that's a skill right there. That's a huge skill. Okay, tell us about your book. Oh, wait a minute. Back it up. Wait.
Okay, I'm backing up.
So when did you get this idea for the book? Did it just dawn on you one day? Were you out sitting in the sun, or were you riding a bike, or what?
A year ago, January, I woke up and I had dreamed the book.
Okay. Wow.
And I said, okay, I need to go write this down before I forget what I was dreaming. And so I wrote out the story with some ideas about how it was to be done. For example, it riffs straight off of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." Same 56 lines, the same rhyming scheme, which is anapestic tetrameter, and the same structure. It's a completely different book, but line for line, it would match "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." I threw in a few twists, like every 8 lines. It starts with, if mice pulled the sleigh, and then you get, 7.5 lines of chaos. And it ends with, if mice pulled the sleigh. The next section is, if cats pulled the sleigh, and you go on about the cats, and it ends with, if cats pulled the sleigh. Things would be this and that if cats pulled the sleigh. We go through the book like that. So I knew my structure, which made it a lot easier for me, because I don't believe I'm a natural writer. I had a box that I had to fill with something that was interesting, and I had already defined my box. So the benefit I had is Jude has been a children's librarian for the past 30 years. So every week she has to go read to kids and knows what they like. As a former Scout leader, I know what little kids like. So between the two of us, we said, okay, that looks like funny to me. And typically you go out and you read to a bunch of kids, you get their input. Well, we've already read to thousands of kids in our lifetimes. So we already knew what they'd respond to. And here we go.
So what I really, from the very beginning when we started talking about this show, you sent me, which I'm a big fan of history and doing research on every single thing I do in life, basically. But you sent me some history on the basis of the knowledge, and I read it. I reread it today to go over it, and it's amazing. And I love how you applied it to this book.
Well, it fits in the book. For everybody watching, what she's talking about is the way to hitch the reindeer. Now, every Santa's got their own opinion on the matter, and it's all good.
Right.
but I used to live in San Diego. I live in Massachusetts now. I came back here about 10 years ago to take care of my folks, um, and met a nice lady and stayed. She's I don't like snow, but I like her. So there we go. Um, but out near San Diego, we have Death Valley, and there you can go to the grocery store and buy 20 mule team borax. Well, 20 mule team was a real thing, and you had mule teams that hauled borax out of Death Valley, and you hitched the animals in a certain order for a certain reason. I liked that because what I was able to do with that when I talked to the kids, if they, if anybody asks me, in what order are the reindeer hitched, I can give an answer with confidence based on how real mule drivers set their sleigh or set their teams up, pulling out these 40-ton wagons. And I can tell a kid next time in the grocery store, look to see if you can see 20 mule team borax on the shelf in the laundry detergent area. The kids will go find that and they will look at that and they go, he was right. He must be real. Because they'll make that kind of connection. Obviously, it's not a real connection, but it helps take the magic of our visit past the framework of our visit. And that's so important to me. It's one of the reasons I wrote the book. When after I wrote the story, I said, okay, I need to make this a book because I would like to do things that go beyond our visit.
Yep.
My philosophy is most kids, if they ever see Santa really, they get 5 minutes. That's it. And the kid may never see a Santa again. So you aim for a wonderful visit, but if you can hit it out of the park, you create a wonderful memory that they come back to years later. Maybe it's an amazing photograph or it's an amazing story or a way to bake cookies. I will tell the kids, I will get into stories and I'll throw their parents under the bus and tell them that I will say to them, can I tell you a story about your mom? And the kids will go, yes. I go, when she was 5 years old, oh my goodness, her hair was always a mess. But Christmas Eve, I showed up and I put toys into the tree and the tree looked great. And I went over to the table and there was a plate of cookies. The cookies looked good. I picked up my Santa cookie. There was a bite out of it. And the kids turn around and they look at mom like she's some kind of a criminal. And they cannot believe that Santa's actually talking to me after mom took a bite of the cookie. And I go this long, histrionic story about how I went down the hall and I opened her bedroom door and you know what I smelled? And the kids go, what? And I say, cookie breath. And the kids lose it. And so I tell them, I want you guys to check the cookies before you go to bed. Make sure nobody, I look at mom, has taken a bite out of my Santa cookie. Now, it's a ridiculous story, but it's something that if the parents pick up on it, they can have the annual checking of the cookies.
Yeah, I like that.
And this can become a family tradition. Make sure there's no sketchy old people that can take a bite out of that cookie, and they can carry it on. I like that. And the book was an opportunity for me to create something that they can read every Christmas or hand down to their kids.
Yep. And that's how Mrs. Claus Vintage here, pretty much my MO, you could say, because that's a lot of what I do is to create a memory and that the children can actually see some sort of proof in the end. Even if they're going back and watching the 1970s cartoon after I talk about the stories, because I will tell grandma or whomever to go watch the movie, or they can see me in real pictures and they can connect it with things to really believe, and it helps the whole big picture of all of it. So I'm with you on 100% on this. So now I would love to show this beautiful book. Yes, this is so pretty. Now, I have so many books, and I've had kids and looked at many books, and I didn't realize. I looked through this and I thought, oh my God, these pictures are just beautiful. And I told a couple friends, Santa Jeff I work with, I think, and maybe Betsy. But then I talked with you, and you really opened my eyes, made me realize why I like this book so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's the eyes of the characters.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Can you explain that? That
Well,
makes it different.
When I started last January, I know absolutely nothing about self-publishing, publishing, printing, all this stuff. I climbed so many mountains, so many learning curves to try and get this done. I had to dodge so many scammers, the vanity publishers. They'd be happy to take $4,995 and you get nothing for it.
Wow.
But I didn't know anything about illustrations. I am not an artist. I can do a bad stick figure if I have to. But I needed to understand what I was doing. So I took these artists that I enjoyed. Beatrice Potter, I enjoy her work. What's his name's Van de Beer, who did Littlest Polar Bear, and I took pictures of those and I put them into my Chat GPT, and I asked it, what am I looking at? What is this? What do you call this? And it said, oh, that's pen and ink and watercolor. I said, all right, explain it to me. What am I looking at? So I could understand the terminology. Am I looking for spreads, spots, full page art? Is this pen and ink? Is this whatever? What is this style for all that? And I did a lot of different stuff to understand what I was looking at. And then I went out and I found Mariano. Took me 2 months, just searching online to find him. What caught my attention was one of his illustrations with a giant robot thing holding a boy in his hand, and the eye line was there, and there's a lot of little detail there, and I saw it. I said, that's my guy. And he's in Argentina. He doesn't speak
This
English.
blows my mind that this
No, but
connection.
after I got through all of this, and after all the art was almost done, I realized that I wasn't looking for an illustrator. Mariano is a character designer. And it's the character design work that creates the faces. And if you look at good character design work, good storytelling, the eyes would be looking at something, and it makes every face tell its own story. They're looking at each other, or they're looking off at something. There's some kind of expressiveness there that you can take all the text away, and you can hand this book to, like, you can leave the text, hand it to a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old who can't read the words, and they will tell their own story from the pictures. And that's what makes it special to me, that he is so good that he is able to do something that even someone who can't read can tell a story from this.
Well, the other thing I liked is that each character, you can see a personality on each little animal separate.
Yep.
Like,
absolutely.
And it's insane how
Absolutely.
amazing it is. Like, for instance, this.
Oh, those dogs. Oh, my goodness.
I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. They all just have, you can just look at them, and you could probably sit here with a child and describe each personality and talk about each little animal.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that kind of book, because it not only is giving you the story you wrote, but you could get so many stories from this.
Yes, you can.
Everything.
Every one of those dogs has got its own story. And that is something very special about that illustration. First of all, that sleigh is modeled after my sleigh.
Oh.
And that Santa's modeled after me. And but when I handed him my files and I gave him some ideas about illustrations where my vision was, it was nothing like that. And he sent me a very nice email from Venezuela. It's not Venezuela, Argentina, and said, hey, Bill, how about this? Would you mind this? And I went, I wouldn't mind that. That's beautiful. It's far better than anything I thought of. But he keyed off the story. And when I interviewed with him and said, I want you to do this book, I need a story. I need to make my story good enough where the kids will want to turn the page and see what's happening next.
Yep.
But I need the illustrations to be good enough where kids go, no, Daddy, don't turn the page. I'm still looking.
Still looking. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us about the other very magical part of this that blows my mind. I'm going to show them.
Oh,
this extra, the inside the cover.
Yep.
Is that.
I have one too. All right. So I
Beautiful.
was, still am. I'm part of some online uh, children's book author groups. They're good and they're bad. Bad part's got a lot of scammers that prey on newbies in there. So you got to be very careful about someone who wants to see your stuff, represent you, do some work for you, whatever. Be cautious of that. Very, very cautious. And the other part is you get a lot of very, very bad advice. So you got to be super careful about what you listen to and avoid most of what you hear as far as advice goes. But I was in that group, and someone said, "Hey, you can put something on the inside of the dust jacket." And I said to myself, "That's a great idea." So I wrote it down. So as I finished the book, I had Mariano give me a piece of art that's suitable for that. Had my printer print on the inside of the dust jacket. Cost me like 30 cents, 34 cents, whatever. Not much at all. But when I'm out doing an author visit, and I pulled that open and I said, make sure you look at this.
Hmm.
And they go from someone that's browsing to someone who's buying. And when I'm doing my own author visits, that's money for me.
Yeah.
So I'll take it. That's a great way for me to add to my income whenever I can get into a farmer's market or a craft fair or Christmas in July or a preschool or whatever. I can sell 30 books at 20
Yeah,
bucks
it's
a
just
pop.
adding because I've had children and been around a lot of children. I can imagine that when they see that big picture
Mm-hmm.
showing the whole thing, that would be like, okay, that's teasing factor. I'm going to bug my mom until she buys me that because it was
Right.
extra different from other
Well,
books.
you know who my market is? Grandma.
Grandma, okay.
I love the kids. I love the kids. But I am waving my book in front of grandma because
Hmm.
a book is something they can sign from grandma. Love grandma. So they can give them something they're going to keep. They're not going to play with it and throw it away. They're going to keep it. It's also educational. They got this little educational vibe going on. It's something you can read with them. It's also something that's budget friendly because say grandma has 3 different children that all have families. Well, now you're into a fist fight about, who gets what. And is that Lego set nicer than this puzzle thing I was getting? Is there going to be any kind of resentment, animosity? You want to just get them all the same thing. So if you get three families, 3 books like this, 20 bucks a piece, round numbers, and you go, okay, 60 bucks, I'm done my Christmas shopping, everybody's happy.
Yep.
So I want to talk to grandma, and
That's
they will get the
interesting.
book moving. Yeah.
Real quick, let's say hi to Mike is on here, and he says that he uses your book as part of
Wonderful.
our holiday TV show this past season.
Yes, Mike. Okay.
Yep. And Patrick is on here from Houston. Patrick has a book too that he has written,
Nice.
which is really nice book. I'm gonna have to have Patrick on here too. He's a great guy. Hi Jenny and hi Terry from Stay Bearded. Glad to see you guys on here. And I am so used to touching my thing here. Let's see if we have anybody else here. No, we're all good. Okay. Let's see. There's so many questions to ask you. I guess quickly is we need to elaborate, and I'm hoping to have Bill back on the show for the audience, so that we can go deeper with different things. And this is just kind of a teaser for everything. But can you talk through the process of publishing and promoting a Santa themed book, like a real quick
Okay.
process of that?
There are a lot of steps. First thing you have to ask yourself is, what is your end goal? And that's once I wrote it down and Jude said, yeah, we need to go with this. We need to make it work. I went down to the library. She's the librarian. And I talked to the people there that buy the books. And I say, what are your parameters? What are your minimum standards for a book you buy? And she told me. And I made sure everything I did went at them because I don't want to sell 10 books. Really, I want to sell a couple 100,000. So, and I look at it this way, I can make $20 a book. Well, before cost. By the time I've paid for my cost is $15 a book. I walk around, hand people a book, and I get my money. Yay. But that's me standing there selling books. And I can't do that forever. And I can't do that 24 hours a day. But a couple 100,000 books at a couple of dollars a book, that's a pretty good Santa season.
Heck yeah.
So that was my goal. A goal might easily be just somebody wants to write a book so they can take it to do their own Santa visits. Because to be Santa, and I am, and you go to a house visit, I can hand them a little leave behind, a little trinket, a little bell, a little bow, a little whatever. We do this, and I see lots of this, and it ends up in the back of a drawer. I've done it, and they do that. But what if you wrote a book, and now you're not just Santa, but you're a children's author, and you can read this book, and you sign this book, and you leave the book with them? That makes a far bigger impression. Maybe your costs are $5. Raise your fees $5 for a home visit. Would you leave a book behind? That's the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
You may never get into a store, may never care about it. So anyway, you start with the writing, because illustrations come from the writing, I believe. So and Mariano was inspired by what I wrote to create his illustrations. Those didn't just come out of the void. You decide the physical structure of the book that you want. How big is the book? How many pages is the book? Is it a hardcover? Is it a paperback? Then you get into developing the book. At the end of all of this, and for me, I spent about 10 grand to have a PDF file of my book. That's it. Then you get into printing. Well, I'm about to place an order for 5,000 books, and that's going to cost me 15, 20 grand. That I'm going to go put on credit cards, and use that and get me through the season. But those are going to my distributor, and they're going to go sell them all, and I'll make money from every book. But once my development costs are gone, my 10 grand is already paid back. I'll never have to pay that money again. I only pay printing costs because I own the book and I own the rights to everything. So you start with the development, and as soon as you write it, you want to get it copyrighted, Library of Congress. If you're going full bore, then you want to get the copyright information. There's a block you'll see on in a book that's got all these words about Library of Congress and stuff like that. So you'll chase all that down, build your files, and then go to print. Now, you actually, between that, you go get professional reviews, not just like I've got a couple reviews by nice people, wonderful people, but the professionals, librarians, look at the reviews that by Kirkus or Clarion or other professional editorial companies, and you get reviews there. Try to win some awards if you can, good ones, but not every one of them is a good one. And then you print. Then you can take this book. If you've gone to library standards, you can put it into the Ingram system. It's distributed worldwide or nationwide. Ingram is different than Ingram Spark. Ingram Spark is print on demand. Amazon, if you have Amazon print on demand, that's a lesser quality book. Barnes and Noble won't carry it because the quality of the book and the thin profit margin they have from there. They want a book that's been offset printed like the one you have, and then you go out and you market it, and you find your market. It could be, if you're just small batch, you use your Santa visits. You could also do something, and here's something: you could connect with a charity, and you say, "I will sit with your charity for your event, and for $20." I will sign a copy of my book and take a picture with you. $10 goes to charity, whatever the charity is. So now you are 500 people take a picture with you that weekend. That's $5,000 that you initiated into that charity. Do you think you'll get your name in the paper? I think so.
Yeah. So
now you've got a much higher presence community. That's free advertising. You go to a children's hospital at Christmas time, you're in the news. You do this, you're in the news. And To get a book signed by Santa with a photograph, $20. That's a deal if you got kids. And that was actually one of the first events I did. And I wish I could say that I thought all this through ahead of time. A lot of it, I went, hey, look at that. That was really smart. How did I do that? It was an accident.
That's how we learn.
I wrote this book on some ladies I know from my Santa work. Said, will you come to our preschool? I said, okay. And then they started telling me how they wanted to set it up, pre-selling a case of my books.
Yeah.
And all I had to come is I showed up this beautiful venue, and they had me mic'd, and they had the lights, and they were baking or decorating cookies, and they had cocoa, and I read my story on the mics, and the kids all laughed, and sold 40 books in a couple hours.
Yeah.
And I went home and everybody's happy because the parents said, $20, I got a picture, I got a book signed by Santa, and we had a Santa visit. There's no better deal you can do.
No.
So in our industry.
Okay. I want to say hi to Neil from Australia. Thanks for joining us. Joseph, Mary's here. Hello. Don. And I think Don has a question. And then we're going to go to a break here. John says, Don says, when you speak of end goal, where does telling a story come into play?
Aha. Telling the story, you like in front of an audience? Depends the audience. I can sit with one child, and if they're someone who wants to climb on Santa, they climb up in my lap, and we sit and we read a story. More often, they will want to sit on somebody's lap, and I will hand them a book, and I can read it to them. Now, I've memorized my book, so I'm reading, but I'm more telling the story. It's kind of like jazz music. If you listen, well, any kind of music, there's changes in dynamics, volume, speed, inflection. All these things change up rather than just monotone, and it makes the read more interesting if you stop. And when I'm reading like that, I'm looking to have the child engage me, engage the book, engage me, engage the book, back and forth. That keeps their attention. I watch them to see if I need to speed up or ask a question. If I go to a larger audience, I can't do that as much. But what I really like to do in a big room, and that's what I had for that first thing for the preschool, it was a room of, by the time the parents, I had probably 120 people in there, and the kids were all eating cookies, so I know they're fired up on sugar. But it's on the screen, and I'm on my feet in motion, and I'm walking around, I'm telling the story, and they're looking at me, and then looking at the screen to see the book, and looking at me and looking at the screen, and that way they can't get bored because they want to know where I got to. They've got to keep at least one eye on me. It's just something I learned as a scout leader. What I'll do in larger groups like 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, I tell that a lot. And I was doing a house party regularly for a while. They aged out on me. But I would show up, and I had like 15 kids, and I would show up with like 7 copies of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. And I would hand them the 7 biggest ones and say, find a little person who doesn't read yet, and I want you to watch the book and watch me and see if I make any mistakes. Well, of course they want to catch me making mistakes. So they're paying attention to the story and paying attention to me, and they got the little kid, and now I've got everybody under control, and we're having a great time. So, but how you read depends on whether or not you're trying to put a child to sleep, or whether you want to fire them up, or you want a laughter, or if you want a quiet moment.
Or if you want them engaged in what you're doing.
It really depends. And even though we think we know what we're going to do as we walk in the door, the kid will tell us what we're really going to do when we get inside.
Yeah, that's for sure.
They have their own plan.
Yep. And sometimes those ones that become helpers real quickly.
Yeah,
they're helper elves.
Lots of helpers. We've had lots of helpers.
Yeah. So now we are going to have Angela take us on a break and show some of our cool people that help us out on the network, the Tuesday Night Live network.
Yay.
I cannot wait to meet that boot company every time I see that ad. Soon in
Yeah.
Branson. Um, okay, I want to say something before I forget about the book that I
Okay.
think is super cool too. The way that you have different animals in here,
Hmm.
children usually have interest, and some children will like snakes or some will like cats. And I like how you do have a very big variety of different kinds of animals. And I think they're kind of will be excited when you turn the page and, there's dogs
Yeah.
or and they have a dog at home or there's ducks. Wow.
Hmm.
That is
Now
so
that picture you have right there, when I'm reading the on your left side of the duck swimming, when I'm reading to a large group with the parents involved, just like when you go to any one of these Pixar movies or Disney movies, they toss something in to make a parent laugh. It's
yeah.
not anything, it's still PG, G rated, but it's something to catch their attention. I will point to that picture and I says, that's a picture of the last time I had all my ducks in a row,
Love
which
that.
is just silly. But the parents laugh, I'm halfway through the book at that point, so they've laughed. Everybody's laughed. Kids laughed because the parents laughed, and now we're bringing it home.
Yeah, and you also have this, I'm sure you have giggles from this one, the snakes in your pants.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
I'm,
and I will play that one up a lot. Where I will, especially if it's up on the screen, I'll go. Those are snakes. Can you see those snakes? Those are snakes, and those are my underpants.
oh
And
my
they all die.
God.
They all die when I say, I mentioned if you tell a 5-year-old anything about underpants, they're on the floor. You win.
Exactly.
And then I say, and those are snakes in my underpants, and they're running away, and they all fall apart laughing, which I win. In my particular Santa view, if I can send the child away from me laughing, I win. It was a perfect visit.
Yes.
So we may not get to the list or whatever, but they laughed.
So one thing I want to go back on a little bit that I found interesting because of all the talk with AI, and I use AI
Hmm.
all the time. I
Hmm.
identified a plant outside of my backyard today with Chat
Yep.
GPT. It was wonderful. Uh, but you use it for research, it sounded like to me, right?
I use it as a tutor, and also as an assistant to some degree. For example, for this book, I shoved my pictures into ChatGPT, and I had long sessions where I say, "What am I looking at? Tell me what the words are. Tell me other examples I can go look up." And I used it for that. Then when I was working with Mariano, um, that cover picture was my idea, but it wasn't coming across to him how I wanted to look. So I took a prompt and went into Midjourney, which was a different that's a picture making AI, and I gave it descriptions, and I did that over and over again until I got something that came close. And I sent it to him. I say, see the way the mouse is at this angle on the hat, and I know I'm not talking to someone who speaks English, so I have to be more explicit.
Wow.
So look at the hat, and it says, but I don't want you to do this picture. I want you to do it your way. I want you to do what you're trying to do, but get that mouse this way and do a couple things to get the eyes going that way. So I asked some specific things for it. But back when I was doing the writing, I can't get someone to sit next to me and tell me whether or not my meter is correct. I'm too close to the project sometimes
Yeah.
to understand that I've got a terrible word in here. And so I would use ChatGPT, and I'd say, okay, I want you to be my developmental editor. You're an expert in anapestic tetrameter. What's wrong? Tell me where I screwed up. And it would say, okay, third line. That's not an
Nice.
anapestic
I
tetrameter.
like,
I
yeah,
say,
that's
fine, do
nice.
that way. And I would go fight with it, and I would rewrite that line and rewrite that line, and I'd go get my thesaurus, and I would find other words, and I would just bang on it till it was better. Then I'd bring it back to ChatGPT because I would hire a professional to be my developmental editor, but I don't have the money.
Yeah.
So to have that do some of the basic work I needed worked. And then Grammarly, a lot of people don't think about it, but Grammarly is AI, and it will tell me to take the stupid comma out because it doesn't belong there, and I'll go, okay, take the comma out, and So it's embedded in a lot of the stuff we do. But that's my use of AI. I have a very particular sense of humor, and it can't be me. My ideas about elephant poop, and it was a visit 2 Christmases before the book, where I had a shiny little 5, 6-year-old boy. He was all full of energy and curiosity, and I had time to talk. And he said what we all hear all the time: Santa, how are the reindeer doing? And I say, well, they're doing great. I'll tell them you said hi. I'm sure they'll want to say hi to you too. And and then I looked at him and I said, now I use a lot of improvisational comedy. I have no idea what I'm going to say next, but I just go with it. And I looked at him and said, I didn't start with reindeer. And once you say something like that to a child, and everybody here that, Santa's and Mrs. Claus know, they think they're going to get backstory. Now you got their attention.
Yeah.
So he said, you didn't? I said, no. Well, when I started, the sleigh's so heavy with all those presents, I thought elephants would be a good idea. And the kid goes, elephants? I said, yeah, it's the worst idea I've ever had. And I don't know what I'm going to say next. Neither does the kid. And I say, first of all, they really can't fly. And the kids have all seen Dumbo, so they laugh. And I said, they walk really slow. And then I leaned in, because there's 2 things that will make them laugh guaranteed all the time. First is underpants. The second is poop. Well, I looked at him and I said, and I have never seen so much poop. And he fell apart. His parents fell apart, And so everybody left laughing. It was a great visit, but it was just a one-off comedy bit, and I never thought about it, never used it again until I woke up. And here's my book, and the elephants are in it.
You got an elephant.
I got elephants in it. I said, that stuck around for a reason. So that's where it comes from. But that kind of stuff AI can't do.
No.
And may never be able to do it. Even if it can do better than me, it can't be me. So I won't let it.
So right now, I would like the audience, if anybody has any questions, we've only got about 5 minutes left of the show. Unfortunately, I knew this would happen. I knew it. But if anybody has any questions, hi, Jim, and hi, Shannon. It looks like you guys have added on. I guess I would like for you to, I'm going to ask you a question. Is there any more books in your future?
Yes. You spoke of the variety of animals.
Yes.
We have coming up right now, If Sheep Pulled the Sleigh. It is the same book.
Okay.
Because if you've got something good, why change it? But when I wrote If Mice Pulled the Sleigh, I had other animals that I didn't use. Because in a children's book, you're kind of stuck with about a word limit. And I didn't want to run long. So I had more animals. And when Mariano gave me, you mentioned the duck pictures, they've got this adorable frog sitting on a rock. I saw that frog. I go, I love you, frog. And so once this was done, I told Jude, hey, what if I do another one just like it? And so the next one's If Sheep Pulls the Sleigh. And it's sheep, goats, frogs, ostriches, dinosaurs, robots, and then finally the reindeer.
Wonderful. That's so many more children are going to just love that.
And I have a few more stacked. That one is right now with a designer. It'll be ready to print in a month. I don't know when I'm going to print on it, but it'll be ready in a month. And then
so Charlie's asking, can we read the books during home visits? Is there any issues with that?
Oh, absolutely. Santa, and I mean all of you, go for it. You can read my books to the kids. Beyond that, grandma will sign a book and give it to the kids, right? Well, if you want to say, kids, let me sign a book for you, and you sign it as Santa, you want to sign my book as Santa, please do that.
I love
it does
that.
Nothing for me, but the kids got a book from Santa. And I got to help facilitate a Santa all around the country, all around the world perhaps, giving a child something that makes them happy, and they've got a connection to their Santa. Go for it.
So in the audience, if you'd like Bill to come back, let me know on here too, and we'll take a deeper dive with questions. If you want to bring questions back, if you want to run titles you've been thinking about, or some sort of Christmas subjects, we could have a show
Mm-hmm.
on that. Let me know in the audience. And I would like to possibly get his wife on here, since she's an abundance of knowledge, I have a feeling. So we're working on that.
Yeah, we're working on that.
We're working on that one.
She is famous for her drive-by wave on these video things. She'll walk past me and wave and keep going. So
I just love when I hear somebody that has that much knowledge, librarian, and the reading, and it's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Do you want to run your video real quick? We can do. Angela can run the pictures of your book and some other a review. Let's run
Sure.
that, Angela, and we'll show everyone. Well, looks like we have everybody loved the show today. Fabulous. They're saying thanks, Bill, and fantastic show. They want you back. So we're going to have to schedule you in, and hopefully by that time we will, you can give us more information on the new book, or maybe have it in hand, which would be nice. I would like to include, before we leave, a big thanks to the producer, Angela. She does a tremendous amount of work and is a great support system, and it's so nice to have her. And the TNL network, wonderful people to work for. I would like to tell you that next Monday is going to be a mystery guest, a very kind, gentle soul, somebody I've known for a few years, and well worth watching. Just it's gonna be a good night. And then the next episode, I will say episode 6, June 2nd, is Stay Bearded is going to be here. Terry from Stay Bearded. I absolutely cannot wait for this show. It's going to be very exciting. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff, and some maybe some stuff that I might be helping, or Mrs. Claus Vintage might be helping Terry with in the future too. So some good stuff on the horizon. So thank you, Bill, for your time tonight and sharing all the information. We appreciate you being so open with it all and sharing it. And the whole bottom line, and I'm going to start saying this in all my shows, is it's about the children, and that's what we're all here for, and trying to learn from each other, to give back to the children. Yep. So thank you all.
Thank you, guys.
With that, I will say good night. Thank you, Bill.
Good night. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.